There is something about uncertainty that makes us uncomfortable. The unknown has a way of stirring up fear, making us question whether we're on the right path, whether we've made the right decisions, whether the door we've been waiting for will ever open. And when things don't happen according to our timeline, we worry, we stress. We begin to doubt if what we desire will ever come to pass. But what if I told you that the doors that don't open were never meant for you? What if I told you that the delays, the detours, and even the disappointments were not signs of rejection, but divine redirection? You see, worry thrives when we focus on what we cannot control. It grows in the space where we try to force things to happen, where we knock on closed doors so hard that we forget to recognize the ones that are already opening in front of us. I want to challenge the way you see closed doors. I want you to consider the possibility that every no is making space for the right yes. Because when God opens the right door, it will not require manipulation. It will not demand that you compromise your values. It will not leave you feeling exhausted, anxious, or uncertain. The right door will open in such a way that you will look back and realize that everything, the waiting, the struggle, the unanswered questions, was preparing you for what was always meant to be. Think about how often we allow worry to consume us. We obsess over the future, trying to figure out how everything will unfold. But if we really pause and reflect, we'll see that some of our greatest blessings came from situations we didn't plan. Some of the most beautiful moments in our lives happened in ways we never expected. So why do we still stress over the unknown? Why do we still doubt whether the right opportunity will come when history has already proven that things tend to work out, just not always in the way we imagined? Worry is a thief. It robs you of peace, of joy, of the ability to be fully present. It keeps you so fixated on what's next that you fail to appreciate what's now. And what's worse, it tricks you into believing that if you don't have all the answers today, you won't have a future tomorrow. But that is not the truth. The truth is your story has already been written, and there is nothing, no delay, no setback, no unanswered prayer that can stop what is meant for you. You don't have to force the right door to open. The opportunity that aligns with your purpose will not require begging, manipulation, or striving beyond what is healthy. And I say this because I've lived it. I've walked through seasons where I tried to push my way through doors that were never mine to enter. I exhausted myself chasing after things that in hindsight I was never supposed to have. And every time I let go, every time I surrendered the need to control, something greater came, something I couldn't have orchestrated on my own. I want you to understand that fear does not have the final say in your life. Just because you don't see how something will happen doesn't mean it won't. Just because you don't have all the answers doesn't mean God isn't already working on your behalf. What if, instead of worrying, you chose to trust? What if, instead of dwelling on the doors that have closed, you shifted your focus to preparing yourself for what's to come? Faith is not about knowing every detail of the journey. It's about trusting that you're being led in the right direction, even when the path isn't clear. It's about believing that the right door will open at the right time and that no amount of worrying will speed up what has already been set in motion. So today I encourage you, release the fear, release the anxiety, release the pressure to figure everything out. You were never meant to carry that weight. The right door will open, and when it does, you will realize that every moment of waiting was not wasted. It was preparation. The mind is a battlefield. Every single day, thoughts come rushing in, some that uplift, others that weigh us down. Some thoughts empower us to move forward, while others keep us trapped in cycles of doubt, fear, and insecurity. And the truth is, we don't always get to control which thoughts enter our minds, but we do get to decide which ones stay. Negative feelings have a way of creeping in quietly. They don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they come as a subtle whisper, telling you that you're not good enough, that you're not ready, that you're behind. Sometimes they disguise themselves as logic, making you believe that the worst case scenario is the only outcome. And before you know it, those thoughts settle in, building walls around your faith, limiting your confidence and convincing you to play small. But here's what I need you to understand. Negative feelings are not the truth. Just because you feel something deeply doesn't mean it is reality. Just because your mind tells you a story about rejection, failure, or inadequacy doesn't mean that story is accurate. Feelings are temporary, but truth is eternal. And the truth is, you are more than your fears. You are stronger than your doubts. You have more power than you think over the thoughts you entertain. We live in a world that constantly feeds our insecurities. Everywhere you turn, there's something telling you that you're not doing enough, that you're not measuring up. Social media bombards us with images of people who seem to have it all together, and before we even realize it, comparison starts to shape our reality. We begin to question our own progress. We start feeling like we're behind, like we've missed our chance, like we'll never get to where we're supposed to be. But I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, whose voice are you allowing to shape your identity? Whose words are dictating your worth? Because if the loudest voice in your life is one of fear, insecurity, or self-doubt, then it's time to shift what you're listening to. Your mind is a battleground, and every day you have to choose your weapons wisely. You cannot fight fear with fear. You cannot fight insecurity with more negative self-talk. You have to fight with truth. You have to remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. You have to replace every lie with a truth that is stronger. When your mind tells you you're not good enough, remind yourself, I am more than enough. When fear says you'll never make it, stand firm and declare, my future is already secure. When worry whispers, you don't have what it takes, respond with, I am equipped for everything ahead of me. You see, your words have power. What you repeat to yourself daily is what will shape your reality. If you constantly feed your mind with negativity, you will live in a state of defeat. But if you start shifting your language, if you start aligning your words with the truth of who you were created to be, then slowly but surely your mind will catch up with your destiny. I know it's not easy. I know that sometimes the weight of anxiety feels too heavy to lift, but just because something feels difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are strengthening a muscle that will carry you forward. Every time you refuse to let negative thoughts take root, you are reclaiming your power. And every time you remind yourself that the right door will open, you are silencing the voice of worry and making room for peace. The battles of the mind are not won overnight. It takes intentionality. It takes discipline. But the more you train yourself to replace negativity with truth, the more you will find freedom. The more you choose gratitude over complaining, the lighter your heart will feel. And the more you trust that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, the less pressure you will feel to rush your journey. So today I challenge you. Pay attention to what you allow to stay in your mind. You may not be able to stop every negative thought from entering, but you do have the power to stop it from living there. Choose truth. Choose faith. Choose to believe that the best is still ahead of you. There is something about setbacks that makes us question everything. When things don't go as planned, when doors don't open the way we expected, when we face delays that we never anticipated, our first instinct is to assume that something is wrong, that we failed, that maybe we weren't good enough, or maybe we missed our moment. But what if I told you that setbacks are not stop signs? What if I told you that the things you call obstacles are actually signposts guiding you towards something greater? We have this tendency to believe that if something doesn't happen when we want it to, it must mean it wasn't meant to be. But the reality is, just because something is delayed doesn't mean it's denied. Just because the opportunity you were hoping for didn't come when you expected doesn't mean it will never come. What if the delay is actually protection? What if the rejection is actually redirection? What if the very thing that feels like a disappointment is actually the setup for something greater? There is purpose in every detour. There is meaning in every moment that doesn't go as planned. But we can only see it when we stop focusing on what didn't happen and start paying attention to what's still unfolding. Some of the most significant moments in life come from unexpected places. Some of the greatest opportunities come when we least expect them. But if we're too consumed with frustration over what didn't work, we will miss the beauty of what is still possible. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go as you hoped. Maybe it was a job you didn't get, a relationship that didn't last, an opportunity that slipped through your fingers. In the moment, it felt like an ending. It felt like failure. But when you look back now, can you see how that situation actually led you somewhere better? Can you see how what you thought was a loss was actually a setup for a win? We don't always see it in real time, but hindsight has a way of revealing what we couldn't understand in the moment. If we've seen this happen before, why do we still panic when things don't go our way? Why do we still allow frustration and disappointment to shake our faith? If we know that what is meant for us will not miss us, why do we waste energy worrying about doors that have closed? Setbacks are not stop signs. They are signals guiding you towards something different, something better. But in order to recognize them as such, we have to shift our perspective. Instead of seeing delays as obstacles, what if we saw them as opportunities for preparation? What if instead of being frustrated with what hasn't happened yet, we use this time to grow, to learn, to develop into the person who will be ready when the right door does open? You see, the right opportunity isn't just about where you're going, it's about who you're becoming. The waiting season is not wasted. The moments when it feels like nothing is happening are often the moments when the most transformation is taking place. There are things you are learning in this season that will be necessary for where you are going. There are experiences you are having right now that are shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you for what's ahead. We don't grow in ease. We grow in challenge. We don't develop resilience by getting everything we want when we want it. We develop resilience when we learn to trust, even when things don't go according to our plan. And that's the key, trust. Trust that even when things don't happen on your timeline, they are still happening right on time. Trust that even when the door you wanted to walk through is closed, there is another door opening that is far greater than what you imagined. You are not being overlooked. You are not being left behind. You are not missing your moment. The right door will open at the right time, and when it does, you will see that every setback was actually a setup. Every disappointment was positioning you. Every detour was leading you exactly where you were meant to be. We spend so much time searching for the right opportunity, waiting for the right moment, hoping that the right door will open. And while that is important, I want to challenge you with a different perspective. What if the journey isn't just about finding the right door? What if it's more about becoming the person who is ready to walk through it? So often, we believe that when the opportunity comes, everything will change. That when the right door opens, we'll finally be confident, prepared, and worthy of the blessing. But the truth is, doors don't make us ready. They reveal whether or not we already are. The work doesn't begin when the opportunity comes. The work begins long before. in the seasons where no one is watching, in the moments where we have to choose growth, even when we don't see immediate results. We don't always realize it, but sometimes the reason a door hasn't opened yet isn't because it isn't meant for us. It's because we aren't ready for it. And that's not something to be discouraged by. It's actually something to be grateful for. Because what good is an open door if we walk through it unprepared? What good is an opportunity if we don't have the character to sustain it? There are things that success alone cannot teach you. There are lessons that only come in the waiting, in the stretching, in the refining process. We want elevation, but we don't always want preparation. We want favor, but we don't always want the pruning that comes with it. But you cannot separate the two. The greater the calling, the greater the preparation. The bigger the door, the more refined you must be before walking through it. This is why we cannot despise the process. We cannot rush through seasons of development hoping to fast forward to the breakthrough. Because there are things you need to learn now that will sustain you later. There are habits, disciplines, and wisdom you need to develop before you step into what's next. You may not see it yet, but every challenge, every lesson, every experience is shaping you. And here's what I love about this process. The version of you that will walk through the right door will not be the same version of you standing here today. You are evolving, you are growing. And one day you will look back and realize that even though the waiting felt long, it was necessary. That every season of uncertainty, every moment of doubt, every time you thought you were being delayed, you were actually being prepared. There's something powerful about shifting your focus from chasing opportunities to becoming the person who is ready for them. Because when you do that, you stop striving. You stop living in frustration. You stop trying to force things to happen before their time. Instead, you begin to trust. You begin to embrace the process. You begin to understand that your responsibility is not to manipulate the outcome, but to steward your growth. You are not defined by the doors that have opened or closed for you. You are defined by who you become in the waiting, in the preparation, in the process of trusting that what is meant for you will not miss you. Because when the right door opens, it won't just be about the opportunity. It will be about the person you have become.